I'm excited to show you what is by...
Oh, we are live, okay. Oh. Phone, I swear.
I'm excited to show you what
Are you?
is by...
Wasn't even the right video. Anyway, sorry about that this morning. We're getting started a little bit early, but nobody watches, so... Oh, no, that's me. I saw the counter go up to 1, and I was really excited. Oh, boom. Yeah, just figuring out some of the tech here, which is fine. Today, I wanted to talk about... I'm going to tell a little bit different of a story, and the title of this video is, as you may have surmised, you don't really get to do whatever you want, or you don't really get to choose what you do, or something like that. I think it's very important for business owners and entrepreneurs to understand the difference between what, I'll borrow a phrase here, I'm becoming a broken record stealing from Gary Vee, but the difference between the macro and the micro in terms of decision making. I am consistently surprised in my own efforts how little control I have over what I can do on a day-to-day basis. I know the direction that I want to go, and I get to set where my personal brand and where my business and where everything goes. I get to decide what I want to do in a large scale, but in terms of the things I have to do every day, I don't have much control over that. Because those decisions were made, and they're all wrapped up in the big decision of where I want to go. And just this morning, I'm the last couple of days, I think I've talked about this, on Monday, or what was it, what's today, Wednesday? So yeah, Monday, woke up very, very extremely stressed out because I had a banking issue. And that, caused some issues in moving things forward, and finally got that resolved, finally got that money into my account. Woo! But it's funny because some decisions and some things that have happened over the last 2 months I'm still paying for them, literally. And I wake up this morning and I have all this money put into my account, and then it becomes very apparent to me immediately that some of the plans that I had made yesterday for what I want to do moving forward, I actually can't do because they involve putting money behind it, and I don't have, all that money is spoken for. And so now today what I wanted to be doing and what I had planned to do yesterday was creating a little bit more. I have some client calls in the morning, but then spend the afternoon filling out a little bit more of my content calendar, which is coming together quite nicely. I'm really excited about it. But I can't do that because I have to spend the rest of today. I have 2 prospects that I have to follow up with, and I have 2 invoices that I need to send to clients, and then I have a bunch of work that I need to do for those clients. And so even though today I know that my long-term success is going to be predicated on this branding stuff that I put together, but I'm realizing, like today, I can't do that stuff until after hours, like until I'm done with the other stuff. And so it's funny because we talk a lot, like one of the common themes among the entrepreneurial spirit thought leader people, Gary says this all the time, is how he was terrible in high school, got terrible grades, C and D student. I was a B student, B+ student in high school and in college. But the problem was not the grades, and running to entrepreneurship for me has not been a solution to the, excuse me, it's the morning, so. Running to entrepreneurship has not been a solution to the problem, to my issue of not being able to be disciplined and make those choices, because the underlying cause of my grades in high school, I think, was different than Gary's or than any of the other people that talk about being bad students. Because mine was more about not wanting to be told what to do. It was more, I've used this word in the past, in the podcast quite a bit, but impetuous. Mine was more impetuous. And not just impetuous, but passive-aggressively impetuous, because the way that I grew up, I was not in a position to really be very upfront. So it wasn't like really rebellion or distraction or drive to something else. It was just some impetuous feeling of either superiority or the fact that I didn't think that I needed that stuff. And really, I just wanted to listen to music and play the piano when I was in high school. I didn't really want to do anything. And my dad used to talk a lot about one of his clarion calls, so to speak, of my entire childhood was do your homework. Because that was the reason why I didn't get A's in high school, was because I didn't do homework, because I didn't like it. And I think there is, by the way, let me just pause here for a second and say, I'm not saying that that I am not entrepreneurial, because I definitely think that I am, and I can speak, and I will speak in the coming weeks a lot to some of those experiences in my early childhood where I know that I was extremely entrepreneurial. But there's this other streak that I think I have mistakenly conflated with entrepreneurism, when actually it's just impetuous self-gratification. We've talked a lot about like present bias. I say we. I've talked a lot about present bias and making decisions based on what present Brett wants and not really considering what future Brett wants. And then present Brett, in the same breath, is frustrated with past Brett for the decisions that have been made. So like right now, because I put all my eggs in the basket of that one client, what's today? Today's October, so it would have been 2 months ago. I'm still paying for it out of my pocket. Like today, I'm gonna have to I gotta go pay down some stuff. It's crazy to me how everything sort of catches up. And so anyway, I'm paying for a lot of that, and I think it's just because I'm not forward thinking. And I talk a lot. In fact, I was working really hard. You probably won't see it for a couple weeks, but there's a video that's coming out and a blog post talking about how running a business is like training for a fight, and how number one, when you train for a fight, you have to put everything in. Right? You have to do all of the things. You have to run every day. Every day. You don't take days off. You have to do your exercises every day. You have to do your bag rounds every day. You have to do your sparring every week. You have to do your pad rounds with your trainer. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It doesn't matter what you're passionate about. What matters is you made a decision, you made a commitment, and now the ability to make those choices goes away. And I think the same thing is true, and I want to dig in actually a little bit on running. Running is easily the most boring form of exercise, and I know that there's a lot of people that would disagree, people that run, and they'll talk about like the runner's high and all this kind of stuff. I have done that. I used to run a lot. In fact, my first real experience with significant weight loss was because I started running. So I don't hate running. I just don't enjoy it. I would rather not do it. And really the parallel is that it is the most mundane, unsexy, unfun part for me of exercise. The only thing that would be worse is lifting weights, which I think is not only boring but also pointless. But we're not talking about exercise. But when you train for a fight, you don't have the luxury of not running every day, of not putting in your road work. You simply do not. There are a lot of exercise science says that you actually can get better cardiovascular health from doing sprints versus doing long steady state cardio and all this other stuff. When you're training for a fight, you do road work. Period. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and you have to do your bag rounds. Because here's the problem: unlike a lot of other endeavors in life, when you fight, there's somebody else that's also training. And one surefire way to get knocked out is to not take that person seriously. To not take seriously the fact that their intention is to do more harm to you than you can do to them. And if you don't have that assumption in your mind, regardless of what actually ends up happening and how well the other person is actually training, if you don't train for your fight with the assumption that your opponent is already training harder than you, you lose. 100% of the time, you lose. And I think there is more of a parallel to entrepreneurship than a lot of us, than I especially, really understand. Because if you're not, I remember there was one fight where I didn't run. And I had some other, I had a lot of other things that I was doing, and that I was really busy at the time. And I did not do well in that fight. I think I still won, or maybe I didn't. That would have been no, I did win that fight, but barely. I only won that fight because in the third round, I came back and I hurt him. I kicked his leg pretty hard and it put him down. But I got lucky. I caught a break. But had I trained, had I been in better shape, had I actually done the work beforehand, that would not have even needed to have been an issue. And the last thing you ever want to do in a fight is depend on luck, because you can't count on it. And in a business, I think it's the same way. I think way too often well, I know I do. I approach business like, okay, what do I want to do today? Where am I going to go find money today? And I forget that when you make the determinations of what direction you want to take your business and what you want to be doing with your business and your life, all those decisions and all those considerations about what you want to be doing today have already been made. Like the decision to not go and spend a bunch of money today on some cool tools that I'm very excited about, and I actually do think they're going to have an ROI, but not immediately. It's like a long tail ROI. I can't do that because I already made the decision 3 months ago to put too much emphasis on one client, right? So the decision to not be able to go and do those things today was already made 3 months ago. And I think as entrepreneurs, we get sucked into, I think actually this video is more addressing people that are considering entrepreneurship or that think they're entrepreneurs but haven't really run into those issues yet. When I talk about training, when I compare entrepreneurship to training for a fight, what I mean is there will come days like today. Well, first of all, there will come days like Monday where you wake up and you have no motivation to do anything, where you just want to stay in bed. And really what happens to me is about once every 3 months, I get about this close to buying a ticket to Paraguay and going and living in some little village in the mountains and foraging for food. And I'm not even kidding at all. Because there's a part of me that thinks, oh, I could just leave this all behind and not have to worry about it. And this is so much work, and the return is so small over the short term that it can get very discouraging. And I have to remind myself that what I'm actually trying to do is create a longer term. I have longer term, goals in mind, and those goals are realistic and they're going to happen. But I got to continue to put the work in today. And so training in the entrepreneurship sense isn't, go run, but it's you got to put your reps in. If you're a freelancer and you're not doing sales, like you're not putting consistent work into doing sales, regardless of whether you consider yourself a salesperson, good luck making money. And if you're not invoicing clients, if you're not keeping track of hours, this is one that happens all the time. And I know if you're a freelancer, I know that you run into this problem. If you are not and you're considering becoming a freelancer or an entrepreneur or starting your own business, whatever, think about this. Everybody at the front, when you start with a client, it's very, very sexy and all the ducks are in a row, and it's very easy to think, oh, I'm not going to have any problems keeping track of time so I can accurately bill this client. And then you realize that you have a trillion things that you have to do as an entrepreneur. Sending bills, setting up ads, sending emails, talking to prospects, sending quotes to prospects, following up on quotes to prospects, following up on invoices from last month to customers, doing the actual work. You realize that it's very hard. It takes a lot of time to keep track of time. And it's overhead that you don't really want to deal with. And so what can end up happening is, and I speak to this not in a technical sense, but in an emotional sense. What can happen in those situations is you get to the end of the month and you haven't really tracked your hours very well, and so you estimate. And estimating is fine. I don't think estimating is a problem at all. In fact, I think, if anything, estimating ends up getting you more money in the end. But the problem is there tends to be this emotional nagging that your brain will nag you about the fact that you don't know for sure that that's the right amount. And it'll just eat at the back of your mind like, am I overbilling them this month? Like, what's happening? And that emotional nagging is such a drain on your creative resources. It will cause serious problems. So again, you can't do everything that you want to do. You don't have the choices that you think you do as an entrepreneur. Because being an entrepreneur is not about having your cake or eating it. It's about making the cake. That was actually pretty profound. I like that. Entrepreneurship is not about having the cake or eating it. It's about making the cake. And let me tell you, for the 5 minutes that it takes to eat a piece of cake, there's, depending on the quality of the cake, there's 4 to 5 hours worth of preparation that went into getting it to you. And when you're an entrepreneur, you might get to taste the cake later, the leftovers. But that's not really what you're after. And the reason why I bring that up, how that ties in, is you are responsible for doing all the things to actually make the thing a reality. That's why I say make the cake. But you're not, you don't get into, like, a lot of people talk about entrepreneurship as they want to start a lifestyle business. I don't think there is such thing as a lifestyle business. Like, I just want to live, I want to go to the beach, I want to live in Fiji, and I want to run stuff on the internet, and I want to do e-commerce and all this stuff. And yeah, some people get lucky and they fall into things, but that's the same thing as getting lucky in a fight. Why would you depend on that? Why would you depend on being lucky? And I say this to you, more speaking to myself, because I'm going to watch this later and I'm actually going to pay attention to what I'm saying, because the question is, why have I counted on future luck instead of just doing the reps every day? Forget the sexy, the idea of entrepreneurship, which is I get to set my own hours, I can do whatever I want, I get to follow my passion. And think for a second, really, really consider that what you're actually signing up for is a marathon of cake making. You can't get excited about the results. You can't get excited about the outcome because you can't count on it unless you put in the reps every day. So the important thing is, when you get up every day as an entrepreneur, you have to approach it not from the sense of, okay, how am I going to squeeze the most out of this day? And I'm so excited that I get to go have lunch with my friend that I can stay as long as I want. I don't have to be back at work. And rather, like I've spent the last 3 weeks, I get up at 6, take the dog out. I'm making this video from 7:30 to 8. I have client calls and meetings from 8 until noon. In the afternoon, I do client work until about 3:30. Then Sue comes home. I take the dog out again. I come back, and I'm sitting back at my desk for like last night, until midnight. And I'm so far behind, and I'm working, so let's see how many hours that is. That's 6. So 6 to midnight is, well, that's 20 hours, 18 hours, with a couple hours out. So that's like 16-hour days. That's a lot of work. And I'm still so far behind on where I want to be. And I'm not actually going to be able to do some of the things that I want to do because some of the decisions that I've already made sort of put me into a box. Like, a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they don't want to be boxed into certain things. That's all that entrepreneurship is. The only difference is that you choose the box. And the stakes are higher if you leave the box. So that's been my experience as I really take things serious and I put in more time and more effort and more energy, realizing that I don't get to choose the path. I get to choose the destination, and then the path is the path. Right? If you think about, like, if you were going to go climb, so I'm in California, let's say I'm going to go climb Coles Mountain, so I'm in San Diego. Cowles Mountain. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but it's not very far away. There might be a couple of different ways to get there, but I live far enough away that it's pretty much a straight shot. There's 2 ways to get to the top of the mountain, 2 trails, and then there's the option of blazing a trail. But in terms of my general trajectory between here and there, the path is already chosen. Like the way that you get to where you want to go, that's already been laid out. And unless you want to take on the additional effort of blazing your own trail, which by the way is not less work, it's more, you'll end up in a situation where it can be frustrating, I think is what I'm talking about. It can be very frustrating to realize that all the things that you thought you were going to love about being an entrepreneur, you don't actually get, at least not in the short term. So I want to go back to that idea of when you're being an entrepreneur is not about having the cake or eating it, it's about making the cake. I like that. This actually started out as a video to relate to fighting, but that's where it ended up. So anyway, that will do it for today. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow we'll talk about more. Whatever happens today, we'll talk about that tomorrow. And the other thing too, I'm going to start releasing Think Like Me or Don't on Thursdays. Think Like Me Thursday. Because I also want to start releasing some of my photography on Fridays, just for fun. So Fridays will be Photo Friday. Thursday is going to be Think Like Me Thursday. And then I've got some really good content that's going to be start to come out next month that I'm really excited about. So anyway, tune back in tomorrow. We will see you all then. Peace.